First, welcome in. Let's get started here. It is going to be a pretty defining session, I feel is the word I'm looking for the next couple of months. So last week, and I'm going to start off here with the macro. So last week, we had the move into the upside where we were looking at a potential rejection. I told you guys we would potentially get a pullback, but then once you do confirm the pullback, right, your risk to reward ratio to the downside upside wasn't that great. It was okay. That's the reason why I did not take that short, right? But I took a smaller, like a very small short position puts, right? Like very, very small one, like this one's right here. 2-4. No, not this one. Hold on. Okay, I think I posted it on the trading room, but it's one of these over here. I think it's this one. Anyway, it was a small bet, about $500 in profits. Okay, it doesn't matter. It's just a very, very small bet on some downside protection for the portfolio. And it was just using Andrew's delta levels too, right? The delta and gamma exposures. Those were the strikes that I was basically aiming at, and it went into that pocket. And I took profits right away, right in this green box right here. Around here is where I took profits itself. Like I didn't want to hold it. But you guys kind of understand what's going on here. We're pulling back to draw on more liquidity. And now, once the market opens and once we get another wave higher, right, then you'll be able to see where that liquidity and where that imbalance lies. Are we breaking further higher than this? Or are we going to reject and come lower from here, right? So that's the idea from here. Obviously, it makes sense to put on longs here, right? Because from here now, your risk to reward ratio, do you see that? It's much better, right? Your risk to reward ratio is much better from earlier. So this is where you can enter longs. This is where you should enter long, right? So don't overcomplicate. You're still within the bounds limits. As long as the S&P 500 doesn't just abruptly sell off pre-market, then I think you should be good putting on a long position. As long as you don't like go far above 5,900s pre-market, you should be okay. Wait for a little pullback during intraday. Wait for one of those like quick intraday sell-offs, enter long. That's how you do it. Don't try to time it perfectly. You will never catch this perfectly. You're going to try to estimatedly enter your long in this pocket. That's it. If you're beyond this pocket, you don't enter. If you have missed it, you don't enter. If anything else changes, you do not enter. As simple as that. Okay? Because there's not much of a room you can play with your stop loss here. You can't just simply make your stop loss bigger and bigger infinitely. Okay, so don't move the goalpost once you've planned it, is my point. Now, on the macro actual standpoint, the US 10-year yield is still in the same rejection area, this one area that we've been looking at. And as long as this doesn't go higher, I'm actually more optimistic about the market conditions. However, there are some concerns. The first concern of mine is that for the December rate hike, the chances of the current rate hike, right, is I think 50%, if I'm not mistaken. Let me have a look. Okay, it's currently, as of right now, if you look in the trading room on Discord, it's 63% here. 63% chance, okay, of a rate pause, I believe. This is a rate pause. We are currently at 4.33, right? Oh, sorry, wrong one. My bad. We are at 4.83. Wait, no. Yeah, 4.83. 4.83. Okay, so essentially they're pricing in the partial chance of a delayed rate cut now. Okay, a delayed rate cut. So on the macro standpoint, that's where the bond market is at. Meaning to say, not willing to really take on much risk in bonds, and that is going to flow into the system, right? So you have to be aware of that. And if risk appetite is not here and the yields don't come down soon, then look at the dollar also on top of this, a very, very strong dollar, right? And it's retraced all the way back into this previous levels of rejection here. If it breaks out from here, that's going to be also trouble, right? For the S&P 500 index. So you got to keep track of these. I alerted you guys about the dollar when we were somewhere around here, then here, here. I've been tracking it ever since. So be aware that if this continues ripping higher, it's going to put pressure on stocks. Okay, these two will put pressure on stocks because they will literally have impact on every single one of these baskets. Now, VIX, a little bit of a jump, 12%. So, I mean, I don't think that that's really significant. It's still within the levels of comfort, but I did see unusual options activity on the research report channel for VIX. And what they were only doing mostly, just to give you guys an idea, was defensive positioning. So they were selling puts, okay? They were selling VIX puts contracts, and that's all about it. So they were just defense. With Bitcoin, I have sold my entire Bitcoin holdings here. I have made a nice, healthy 40% profits, right? And I don't need to hold this much longer, right? For me, the way I think about it is, yes, it can break higher, and I don't really care, but it also has a lot of downside to cover back to 73,000 for another, liquidity rinse event. So I'm kind of expecting Bitcoin at some point in the future, maybe, I don't know, next year, to come back down for like a deep, quick retracement, collect more, and then go up. Like volatile move. Okay. Now, so my expectations on S&P 500 and NASDAQ right now, S&P 500, potential bounce here, you should take the long, it makes sense. On NASDAQ, also take the long, it makes sense, but the pre-market here looks to be pretty strong. So I don't think a lot of you are going to catch it. That's my fear here. And then you will FOMO into it and then you make wrong decisions. So don't do that. So the main thing here is on this wave up, wait for the pullback first. Do not just enter long. On a 4-hour chart that looks like this, but on a 15-minute chart, that's going to look a little different, right? You're going to look something like this, and then like this, and then like this, and then like... So wait for these, right? Down moves, and then enter your longs. Do not enter on the up moves, because that's where a lot of people are going to be zapped into buying high premium contracts. Okay, that's where your gamma accelerates, your theta accelerates, everything accelerates. Okay, so that's the plan here. Now, what negates this plan? What has to happen for this plan to be completely negated, and then how do we reverse that plan? Important thing. So not only are you supposed to look at one side, you have to look at both sides. So the first thing that you look at is the obvious setup, but the second thing you look at is the non-obvious setup, which is the booby trapped setup, and how this can go bad. So how this can go bad is if the S&P 500 starts forming a bear flag here. Okay, what does that look like? That means a move up, and then it gets pulled back, and it comes pretty close to the downside back here, 5860, or it even nicks it a little bit, drawing some liquidity here, and then snapping back up, only to make consecutive lower highs. And then this sets up for a bear flag, something like that, okay? Or it could also go this way, whichever way. It can go do this. Okay, there are multiple ways this can happen. So watch out for that. The way I think about this is don't complicate, just keep it in the box. You all know this, right? Once this hunts for the high, then wait for that box to form, and then you'll see where this will play out. Okay. But immediately I don't want to bet bearish. That's not the plan here. Immediately I want to bet bullish with the bearish slant. If the bearish slant happens, we need to break down from here, come back up to reject this area first, and then I will enter bearish. So there's a lot of time for that, and I think that's a conversation for later. Okay, now thematically, utilities. this is I'm gonna just put this out in front of you guys because this is an important one. And utilities is closed with a very bullish kind of bar beside it, almost a bullish engulfing across the past 2-3 sessions, if you look at that. Now, it did come down initially, pulled back into the $77 level. And I've spoken about utilities being the stronger sectors that I expect to perform in the next couple of years. Why? Because AI is going to cost a lot of resources, strain in electricity and those consumption things. But there's also a trade that might be another a vertical trade to this, and that is uranium. Okay. So there are two trades here that can work hand in hand, and they're kind of performing hand in hand. And I want to bring this to your attention because there's an opportunity here for a long-term play. This is a long-term play. Okay. So the first would be URNM, which is your Sprott Uranium Miners ETF. I like to use the ETFs. And you can see that this has been a previous level of support before where it is. And, honestly, it could be a potential level for support, but we do not know this just yet. And if we do not know this just yet, we have to just watch and see. But I would like to position here for a potential support. The only thing I hate about this is that the range of this is so high. Because if you put this in a box and wait for a breakout, so this is on watch essentially, right? Here, the range of this is pretty high. So you would have to wait for this box to break. Okay. It's been moving between this point for a while. So it could continue moving in this point for a while. And that's my fear. And so I don't want to enter long here. What I want to do is wait for this thing to either go up, break, or come down and then downward. I don't want to play downside. I'm not really looking for downside. I'm looking for upside here. So I really need this to break 48, 49. That's where my alerts are set off. And then the downside, if it breaks as well, I have another alert set off there. So that's one play, uranium. Why? Because uranium is needed for clean energy, which is nuclear energy. And AI can then be plug and play. Imagine in the future, data centers will just have essentially a mini nuclear plant beside it. And it will just feed that data center with whatever clean energy it needs. And so that's the way I think the future is going to go because that's the most efficient route. And yeah, these two sectors, bullish. This one looks pretty bullish if it can continue higher here. The same rule applies here though. This is in a box. And only until this breaks out of the box is where we'll actually start taking aggressive action. But this is so far looking like a nice reversal. We just need to wait for this to actually break out here and start making, higher situation. So we'll have time to enter this trade, but I'm putting it in your eyes now. Okay. And China's back in its previous breakout level here. So if you were looking to enter China long for whatever reason, and you're hoping that the Chinese government's going to do more stimulus, and that's the way you think they are going to go, this is where you can get in long again. Okay, this is another opportunity here. I do have China exposure in my portfolio. Just saying, I'm not adding here. Okay, so highlights from last week's analysis, still bullish trend, KPIs potential pullbacks 58.50, 59.15 bounce area. So that's kind of exactly what happened, I guess. Let's see. Yeah. And so I closed my Bitcoin for 40% gains. I rolled Disney and Amazon to shorter expiries, mainly because post earnings, there's a lot of gamma and clench, and then we had a Friday OPEX. So I took profits on those two positions and then just rolled those contracts for cheaper ones. So that I'm just using my profits. I'm not using any of my own capital. You guys get what I'm saying? I'm basically free rolling on Disney and Amazon now, okay? Because the positions were up almost 100%. So bought final tranche and bonds, and that's all that I have in terms of updates. Sorry, one minor announcement. We announced the sale for Black Friday, but then there was a problem with our back end. My developer is working on fixing it, but I will let the sale continue all the way to the end of Black Friday, just to be fair to everybody. I'm so sorry about that. And yeah, uh, for those of you that don't know, we are going to be running a 5K challenge. It starts tomorrow morning. You can read more about it on the 5K challenge channel that I have just unlocked for all of y'all. If you're a premium member, you will have it. Okay, so just have a read on that. I'm not going to do it now, but I'm done. So that's all I have in terms of updates. Sorry that took a while.
All right. Let me get started. I got puppies going crazy over here, so I apologize. All right. Okay. So let's jump into positioning with market makers. So if we go back to last week, right, to last week's playbook, and we scroll up here, our plan was right here, right? We were expecting a push over 600 to grab liquidity because a lot of people mentally were watching that 600 level. We already knew that. Then we were looking for price to come back down below 600, killing that buying pressure, creating that resistance at 600. Then we had that buying pressure off of 595, which we were looking for price to come down into. And if it broke 595, then the buying pressure died because the market makers were short there. And that would drive us down into that 590 level. And if we broke that, then ultimately coming down into 585. So as you guys can see, right, you had this move down, quick bounce, rejection, push down into 585. And we still have our golden pocket down here. So how did we do? Right? So if we look at it, we opened over 600. You can see the order block come in here, right? I use that as a visual so you guys can see what the market makers are actually doing, right? So we came over 600. The order block came in. That's the selling. That pushed us back down below 600. You can see that we never came back over 600. We rejected a little bit right here about 599.30. That was our little bounce that we were talking about, right? Quick little bounce right there. So you had a wave down, quick bounce. Then you came down, you broke 595. There's your candle close below 595. There's your sell off into 590, where you get a little bit of a bounce there, and then pressed right through all the way down into that 585 level. So played out pretty much what we were expecting piece by piece. And that brings us into this week. So this week we are looking at an upside range of 596.21. That's the expected move for SPY to the upside, and 579.73. That's the expected move to the downside. So as T alerted, this is an area where a bounce would make sense, right? If we're looking at this from like a wave standpoint, you have a wave down, you have a wave up, you have a wave down, you would have a wave up, and then possibly one more wave down, right? Or it's an ABC retracement and we go back to the upside, right? We'll have to wait and see what happens. But I'm in the same ball camp as T, as I would expect a bounce here, especially because if we're looking at dark pool activity on Friday, right here, you can see a large amount of dark pool activity kicked in at 3.8 billion at 585.86. So pretty simple evaluation, right? As long as we're over that 585.86 level, there's a good chance, right, that we see a move to the upside. So we know that 585.86 has this nice large area of dark pool activity that came in on Friday. So we can use that as a basis, right, for risk into the upside. Now, if price breaks below this and starts to close candles below it, I would be very, very cautious because that means that dark pool level is playing as resistance and you're most likely coming down into this golden pocket right here, right? Which is based off of this wave right here, right? So you had a big wave up, then you have a nice retrace back down. That's what you got to watch out for. So below 585.86 or 585 if you want to be safe, I would be very cautious. as you might get this move down into the expected move, which is 579.73, over 585, then I would expect a move up into 590. And then that's where you have to start to pay attention because here you have selling pressure, but it's actually a flip point. So if you go into the playbook, you can see it right here. If you go into, I think it's the third week, I think it's December 6th expiration, if I remember correctly. Yeah, December 6th, right? So you can see right here on the 1129, dealers are long 590. That's why it's selling pressure, right? So if price is below 590, dealers have to hedge, selling pressure. But if you look at December 6th, dealers are short 590. So you have dealers are long 590 on November 29th, and they're short 590 on December 6th, which is what we call a flip point. So if the price breaks over 590, this selling pressure gets killed because the dealers are long here. And then the short position, they have to start to hedge. So they're collecting the premium on the long position and they're getting squeezed on the short position, which is why I call it a flip point because they were shorting, then it breaks and then they get squeezed, right? So over 590, there's a good chance that this would go all the way up into that 595 area, which would be that golden pocket zone up here into the weekly move, which is 596.21. As you guys know, if you break the golden pocket, then you would expect a move all the way up into 600, right? Because if you break over the golden pocket, then we expect the price to push all the way up and retrace completely. So we do have a pretty clean wave here, right? We can see if we come off this low here to the high, right? We have a pretty clean wave here. I'm gonna get rid of the order block real quick so I can get it exact. There we go. It's right there. So it's a little over. Bring that down. There we go. So we can see that we have a pretty clean wave here. And so if price were to get over this, which would be this 597 area, it's also a dark pool level of 5.4 billion, we would look for that move up into 600. Now, why is this important? Because if you look at the gamma exposure for the week, you can see that gamma builds as you go up each level, right? With your peak being 600 right here. So if price is bullish this week and we get through that 590 level, there's a good chance that we see buying pressure kick in and push us up into 595. If we break 595 and break that golden pocket, 600 is the largest amount of exposure here to the upside. So you guys have seen this countless times. I don't need to go through it in detail. Price likes to gravitate to these levels. The larger the level, the higher the probability that price is going to gravitate to there. So pretty easy to evaluate and watch from there. Now, going back to T's point, if this turns into a bear flag, right, something like this, and it rejects off this 590 level, and it breaks through this dark pool level of 3.8 billion, there's a very high probability that you're coming down into this zone right here, which is going to be that 580-ish area. And that would be the expected move to the downside. So those are things that you need to pay attention to if you're going to be looking to day trade this. My plan is the yellow line. I think we're probably going to bounce up into this area up here. I'm going to watch for rejection here. And then that final move into the golden pocket for a strong move into the back end of the year. So with that, I will open it up to you guys and your questions. Give you guys about 30 minutes.
Oh, Andrew,
Yes.
I was gonna say, can you tell everybody in the beautiful community not to use the 50% off coupon because I have something that's gonna be even better for Thanksgiving for them?
Okay. Yeah, I'll let them know.
Yeah. Because I wanted to make sure like we get everything fixed before that happens.
Yeah. How much more of the downside in S&P was Trump RFK tanking healthcare? XLV got killed. Any reason to think it is just bouncing back? I have Pfizer and Viking shares.
Yeah,
Have been,
so we spoke about XLV being bearish, I think what, like about 3 weeks ago, probably. That was part
yep.
of the sector rotational expectations. I think a lot of you reached out to me about it as well. If you remember, I told you guys and alerted you that healthcare sector is going to be one of those that will not benefit from the Trump, administration office. So wait for the 137 to 140 bounce in this area,
Mhm.
or 138 to 140 bounce in healthcare before pursuing any upside. It needs to really form higher highs first, so that's going to take a while. Don't play the
Yeah,
downside.
so yeah, the biggest challenge here is this was your support was 145. So if you mark 145 here, right, you can see that that broke right there. So your next support is all the way down here at 135, which means you're really like down in this area. Now, as I've spoke about countless times, if you break the golden pocket, right? This is your golden pocket right here. This is where dealers and market makers like to buy. If you break this, you usually come down into the low. So usually retrace the entire move. So unless price gets back over 143.29, I would anticipate it's going to come down into this, as T just said. Now, personally, because I follow the data, if it breaks that, I would expect 135.
Yeah.
So unless price can get back over 145, that would be and then you'd probably actually make an inverse head and shoulders. You'd actually have like probably a bounce and then something like that. Right. And that would be looking like a liquidity grab. So, but do you want to mute people?
Oh,
Um, but that'd be kind of what you're looking at here.
oh,
So,
one thing I forgot to mention was this week is NVIDIA earnings and Walmart earnings.
yep.
Now, if you guys look at the consumer staple sector, XLP, okay, this sector is actually been
Right.
very weak in the past, couple of months. September onwards, it's been tanking a lot, and also mainly because of inflation worries, right? So the market's been pricing in a lot of that. Walmart earnings is going to be this week as well. Now, if you look at Walmart as a price, as a stock itself, the stock has been massively up, like for
Insane.
multiple months. I cannot explain to you how big of a generational run the stock is on right now. And I am expecting that Walmart might correct downward a little bit here. Uh, I don't know why, though I do think that there are some catalysts that would, push the stock even higher because of the hurricanes that just happened, et cetera, et cetera. So a lot of things to take into consideration for Walmart earnings, which obviously will be a 50-50
Yeah.
decision to make. Just saying it's at the very, very extended part of its cycle.
I
Uh,
like Target better.
yeah, Target, of course. Yeah.
But earnings is 50-50. So
Yes, they're
I
both going to be
take
a
it with a
gamble.
grain of salt. But my again, my plan here was the golden pocket. So if you bought the golden pocket, which we talked about way back when this hit the golden pocket, when it was down in the 120 to 100 area, we said, look, if you like Target and you want to add it, this is where you buy, right? We've talked about this countless times. So this was your buy zone. If you didn't buy it, that's fine. You had over a month to make the decision or not. Now you have your first wave and you have your retrace. So if these earnings come in strong, I'm expecting that move up into that golden pocket area,
Yeah,
which would be the target. So,
makes sense. The target
but
at Target? Yes.
it's gonna come down. It's gonna come down to the earnings, and it's gonna be 50-50. So if you decide, oh hey, I'm gonna go take a shot, well, it's 50-50 because you don't know what that earnings call is gonna say. So,
Yeah.
but where you should have been buying if you like the target would have been down here. The more you attend these, these lives and you show me targets and you show me different tickers, I'm going to look for entries in these areas because that's where the best risk is.
That's the power of the Fibonacci.
Lily exposure levels, algo has a bounce. Yeah, but you're below 800, which is your concern.
How about TJX instead of Walmart target? TJ.
So this was 800. That was your biggest level of support. Then you lost 760, which was your next biggest level. Your next support is down at 700. So if you're looking at this and you're looking at Lily, that's looking like, okay, so same thing, right? You broke the golden pocket.
That looks like
So
absolute
it should
bullshit.
come down into 719. If it breaks 719, then you're opening up the big retrace, right? So this is going to be your key area right here. Needs to bounce. 700 is going to be your next support, which is right here. So that's your support right there. Oops, let me label that. There you go. So that's your support. So again, always going back to the golden pocket. If it doesn't hold, which it doesn't, right? It was holding for 2 weeks straight. Then all of a sudden it broke through it, right? Most likely you're coming down into the low, which is going to be the 719-ish area. If it breaks that, it's probably going to go into 700. And then you better hope 700 holds because if it doesn't, you're probably coming all the way down. So that's kind of where you're at here with Eli Lilly. Okay, did Target, did healthcare. How about TJ Maxx instead of Walmart? Does it have earnings?
Uh, is it TJ Maxx?
Let's see. It has earnings
In 2
on
days.
the 20th, so it's going to
Yeah,
be 50.
2 days.
It's
Nah,
going to
you
be
got
50-50, but if I'm looking at this, I mean, I bet you there's a gamma level right here. TJ Maxx. What is it? TJX.
yeah.
There it is. 120 and 125. If I come here, plant 120, there's your gamma level resistance. See how the candles aren't closing above it? And then 125. I mean, clearly it's going to clear that if it has good earnings, but
I don't know, guys. I'm feeling bearish on this sector. Consumer staples.
the
Uh,
only thing I will say about it is if they guide that holiday is going to be strong, it's most likely going to rip.
mm,
That would be the only thing that I could.
not for this sector, though. I don't think for this sector.
TJ Maxx?
Uh, yeah, not for the like not
Retail
TJ
store.
Maxx, Walmart, and
Target?
Target. Yeah, these three specifically because they're more consumer driven. Like for Amazon, that would make sense, but
Like they might use earnings to come to here.
maybe yeah, that could be the case. I mean, Walmart could use a pullback too. So
Walmart needs a pullback.
yeah,
So what I will say though is if you guys are looking at stocks that have earnings, it's 50-50. So don't think that any of the technical analysis
yeah,
means
nothing
anything.
helps there. Yeah, trust me.
It means absolutely nothing.
It's meaning
Like whatever they guide, whatever their numbers are, those numbers are a tight secret. They're not going to let leak them or anything. Like that's going to decide where the stock goes. It's not going to be a technical analysis. It's not going to be oh, there's a level here. Now, if you like the risk here, you could short, but don't make earnings on, technical analysis. Yeah, if you own it, I mean, it's had a great year. So, I mean, if you own it, I would say if you're not planning on selling it, then just hedge it. Just take a small hedge against your position to protect yourself if it does do something, or just ride it the way you have. Micro strategies, again, Bitcoin. Um, micro strategies. Still has exposure all the way up at 430. So 430. I still have a Bitcoin hitting 100,000 by the end of the year, so that would make sense. I wouldn't be surprised. Wouldn't be
Oh
surprised at
yeah,
all.
I really wouldn't be surprised. I just honestly wanted to take profits. Didn't want to be greedy. 40% was good for me.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. I would say you're kind of in a box right now, to be honest. Like this is just kind of your range. But I would say if you break this high, then yeah, 430 is likely. If you break this low, I think it probably retraces into this golden pocket right here. About 274 to 260 would be an awesome buying opportunity on a short, a short pullback. But if Bitcoin pushes, as I expect Bitcoin will push to about 108,000 is I think what I have on Bitcoin, if I remember correctly. I think I have about 108,000. It's the target. 103. 103,000. So 103,000. I would say MicroStrategies probably gets to 430. Like I don't think that's a stretch. So that's been the setup basically though this whole year that we talked about. Here's the wave, right? There's your pullback into the golden pocket. If you wanted to buy, that was your buy zone. Here's your move. There's the break out of the bull flag, right? And then your extension's up here at 103,228. So if that happens, then yes, crypto stocks, MicroStrategies probably should get to 430. Would not be surprised at that at all. QQ has to get over 500 and hold to go higher to 505. Yes. Yeah, 500 is the biggest level. So you need closes over 500 to feel good. Then 510 would be next. 505 isn't really anything. 510 would be next. But yeah, you need to close over 500 for sure. So that is correct. I don't have a full breakdown on QQQ because I don't. I just do SPY. But it did almost hit the golden pocket. Right there it was. So same piece here was right there to there. Came right down into that golden pocket area. So 515, 500 is your biggest level here. I don't know if these are still here, so I'm going to delete them for now. 510 is still there, so I'll leave that. So yeah, so you're probably looking at a similar situation. Bounce there to there would bring you back to 510, so that would line up pretty well. So yeah, close over 500 probably gets to 510. Yep. Nike on a 30-year trend line. Thoughts? Okay, Nike. He might have some stuff here. Let's see. If I remember correctly, I'm gonna get rid of this real quick. There we go. I think I had, let's see, get rid of this real quick. I'm gonna clear some of this off because this is all old. This one in a while. Okay, my concern with Nike is that Nike isn't really the trend right now. I don't know if you guys follow footwear trends, but Nike's driving force is not trendy right now. Just know that. That's the one thing about Nike that I'm a little concerned about. Okay, so that's the order block right there that it's bouncing in.
Nike more and more starts to look like the Chinese equities chart.
Yeah, and that's my concern. Like it's still below the golden pocket. I need to see a bigger wave to the upside. Now, if you go all time, which I've done before, it could still come down to about 60 to 44. If it breaks this order block, you're most likely coming into this area. And this is what's going to get people. So here's how they get you, right? From a market maker standpoint. Let me show you how they're going to get you. If this happens, I'm not saying it's going to happen, but if it happens, here's how they get you. So every retail trader is watching this 30-year trend line, right? So you got this trend line here, this 30-year trend line, whatever, right? And it breaks down below it, right? And then everybody shorts. And where do they short? They short right in the golden pocket. And then they rip out of this. And that's how they get everybody. So I would say this order block right here is if you want to take Nike here, this is your stop loss if you're playing it short term.
Crocs is in the golden pocket on the weekly. Somebody said,
Yeah. Now, if you look at Nike on the short term, right, that's you're talking about the 30 days. So now if you go into the shorter term, though, is this a golden pocket? It might be, right? It is. So this isn't a horrible place to take risk, being that it can make a move to here, right? That would be your wave there to there. And does it price in earnings, or does earnings come in strong and push it up into this area? It could. Um, it just depends. But yeah, I mean, it's not a horrible place to take risk. But as far as the 30-year trend line, maybe. I don't really go off of stuff like that. Let's see. You do have good support right here at 75. So I'm not opposed to it. 75 and then 70. So what I would do is I would just mark this 75 support. And you can see right now how it's holding there. So yeah, if you wanted to take a shot here, the only thing I would say is you have earnings right here in December. So I could see a pre-earnings run here, possibly. Maybe pricing in some holiday sales increases or something. That could be something that you could watch here. But over 75, I'd be okay. Under 75, I'd be careful. We'll just leave that there. Crocs is in a golden pocket on the weekly. Okay, Crocs is another one that I struggle with, and it's because of a trend. So the question here is the Crocs trend enough for this business? Because we know why Crocs got big, because everybody started wearing them. That was a trend. If that trend ends, does Crocs have enough in their business to keep growing? I don't know the answer to that. Now, what I would say is you want to see a bounce, right? Because right now you just have a straight weekly candle just pushing down. So you want to see it create a wave, right? So you can mark that as a high and a low and then play the bounce out of there. Because again, if it breaks the golden pocket, what happens? It comes all the way down, right? More times than not. So if we take a look at this from a data standpoint, you got some support. So you could take a shot. 95 would be my line in the sand. Below 95, and I'd be concerned. So we'll mark 95. There it is. Support. So if it breaks 95, I would be concerned. Maybe it bounces off 95. But again, my concern with Crocs from a business standpoint is I just don't know if the Crocs trend is strong enough. Yeah, gold's an easy one. I can walk you guys through that one. So that's what I'd be careful for here with Crocs. Oxy. Okay, Oxy. So Oxy I'm I like Oxy as a business, but there's nothing I like about this chart. Um,
Yeah, this is a tough one. Only last week there was unusual buying on the 13th of November.
mhm.
And apart from that, I think, it's just going liquidity hunting, which is fine.
Yeah.
I don't mind holding the stock for a little while because its dividends are pretty nice.
Oh
So,
yeah, I wouldn't mind buying this. I mean, buying it as a stock or trading it, I would be very careful. If you're like, hey, do you like Oxy here as like a buy for a long term?
yeah.
Yeah, energy is fantastic. 50 is your line in the sand if you're going to trade it. So 50, you can see here is your support. So under 50, you lose your support. Over 50, you're holding your support. You're basically sitting right on 50 right now. So if this breaks, I would expect it to come down into this order block here, right? Grabbing liquidity. And the golden pocket is all the way down here at 30 to 22. So now that is a long-term golden pocket, as you guys can see. This is not a short term, right? This is over the course of a few years. But that would be my guess. Now, my only concern here from a long-term perspective is we know this was all Warren Buffett and he didn't buy here. So that would be my concern. If you're long Oxy, I need to see it at least back over 55. And then this looks like a liquidity grab. And if it comes back over 55 and starts to make support on 55, then this was a trap. And then this thing is most likely going to rocket. We see that happen all the time. But that's not going to be a short week by, a day by day basis. That's going to take, maybe into next year for that setup to start to take place. So just some thoughts there on Oxy. Okay. Gold, Empower, Golden Pocket Weekly. Yeah, I'll take a look. So gold is a tricky one as well. So one, most people are late, right? Gold below 240 was the level. So you do have a pretty clean wave here on gold, right? Nice low, nice high. Again, nice strong move. So what happens after a strong move? You have to retrace. So I have it coming to 226 to 221. That's my bounce zone that I would look for a possible move. The only way I would change that is if it closes over 240. So 240 is right here. That's your support that it broke. So you can see here that was the biggest level of support. So, and you can see that support actually weakens, right, as it goes down. So I would expect, as long as it's below 240, that it's going to make its way down into 226 to 221. So I would not be trying to get long under 240 personally. Um, Empower. What is Empower? I don't even know what this company is. Power Systems. Okay, so these ones are tricky too because it sold off on earnings. So the first question you'd have to ask yourself is what changed about the company? You are right, it's in the golden pocket. You could actually stretch this down though, and this would be your wave. So that's your wave right there, right? That was your inverse head and shoulders breakout. And then that's the top of your wave. So you could probably come down to 519 to 445. So that's what I would watch out for here. Take a look real quick at the data and see what it shows. But MPWR, I don't think I've ever looked at this. Yeah, you've got support right here at 520. Support at 520, and that would put you right at the golden pocket. Just about. Little over it looks like. Yeah, right about it. So I would expect 520. Baba is setting up. So as T talked about, you can see the drawing almost there. Now I will say the concern here is you have Chinese earnings reports this week. So I just posted the earnings reports list for everybody. And you have a few earnings that could play sympathy for Baba, right? You have Baidu, you have PDD. I don't think Baba's this week. Yeah, Baba's not this week. But these two could play sympathy for Baba. And so that's one thing you have to be careful for. So Baba earnings are end of January. So, or do they? But yeah, they were on the 11th. Okay. Yeah, so those ones could play havoc here, and just something to pay attention to. But again, I do like risk down near the golden pocket, so I'm not mad at that. We'll see if it actually plays out the way it's supposed to. Yeah, it was last week. I saw that. The 11th. I don't feel like it moved much on earnings. I don't think this was earnings, was it? That sold off? Where's yeah. Yeah, earnings was actually slightly up and then it sold off the next day or the next candle. Yeah.
I have a shit ton of setups that I'm looking at. I'm gonna post them all on the Discord. Five of them will be on the snipe list for this week, so keep an eye out for that. I will be posting that pre-market, and I will also be posting a pre-market video. So, keep a lookout for that as well.
Nice. Uh, yeah, so big thing this week is going to be NVIDIA earnings. Snow has earnings. It's another one that could have some pretty big movement to it. But earnings are always 50-50, so be careful. It's PDD. PDD already bounced a little bit off of that area. I think it's like a $6 bounce. Is that like 116? Yeah, it came down, tapped 110, and is already back at about 116, I think, right now overnight. So $6 move off of that bounce. Not bad. But I do. Now, this overshot it, which again, I don't like. Yeah. Yeah, I don't like that. Don't like that at all. Yeah. Mm-mm-mm. Yeah. That one's not looking good.
Oh, for all of you that believe in Boeing, and its comeback story, it's approaching stock price where you might want to pick up like a first tranche only when it gets to 120 or 115. And then
Yeah.
second tranche at around $92. And then below that, you would go and get a third tranche at around $80, and that would average you out long term nicely for this stock to potentially make a comeback.
And Boeing is a great example of why I always say if it breaks the golden pocket, you can't stay stuck. Like the strategy is the strategy, right? You can't stay stuck in the strategy if it's not following what it's supposed to do, right? So, for example, Boeing was right at the golden pocket, and then it was in the golden pocket, and then it broke the golden pocket. And so, if I stay true to the system below the golden pocket, I can't be bullish. So, I expect it to come down into this area. Unless it gets back into 150. Then I can reevaluate it. But don't like if you're going to trade a system, right? And this is just the system that I use. You guys can use whatever system you want. But if you're going to trade a system, then you have to trade the system, right? You can't make adjustments to the system
Yep.
because you want it to do something. The hardest thing for people when they trade is staying true
To one
to what the
system.
plan is.
Yep. That's
So
100%
if
true.
you say, hey, my plan is I'm going to take risk at the golden pocket, then if it breaks the golden pocket, you have to follow what the plan is. You either take the small loss or you hedge the risk or you ride the position, but you have to accept that the position could fall dramatically further down than you were anticipating.
Mhm.
So that's one of the hardest things for people. They'll get into a position because they have a plan and the system, tells them to get in. And then my dog, Bougie, damn dog. But then the system will go against them. And instead of adjusting or staying true to what they originally thought, they'll just try to stay with the same plan and it'll backfire. So Boeing is a perfect example of that, where, oh my gosh, Bougie, knock it off. Uh, Boeing's a perfect example of that, where it breaks the golden pocket. And now, if you're trying to get long here, you have to be okay with it coming down first into that double bottom. If you're not okay with that, then you shouldn't be taking risks there. So just know, right, when you build a system, if you're going to use that system, you have to follow what the system tells you. You can't make adjustments to it.
Oh, can I also share with you guys a potential bear trap that's going
Yeah.
on? Okay. Semiconductors. Oh, look, someone asked for it. So perfect. Okay, so somebody asked for semiconductors. Let's have a look at SMH. So one thing to highlight is that this area that we're about to get into, the 230 to 239, no, 230, let's just call it 235, whatever. 230 to 235 roughly, is a pretty strong support from the previous cycle. This was a previous resistance. This is now going to become a very, very strong current support. And also at the same time, the entire sector has been sliding. It has been moving down a little bit. AMD is part of this move, right? NVIDIA has been also sluggish as of the past only one or two trading sessions, but mostly still in an uptrend. And then this week you have big NVIDIA earnings. So understand that all of this could be a potential bear trap, right? Uh, if NVIDIA blows out earnings, all of these people that went short here, right? They're gonna get smacked, and this thing will just roundhouse kick everybody back up. So that's my personal bias. I would like to enter long semiconductors after the earnings, depending on where they play out. So we will keep watch, but my bias is that this will bounce bullishly and trap a lot of bearish players who are playing this pattern, who are betting downside aggressively. That's it.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with you.
Woohoo.
We'll see what it is.
Yeah.
But either way, I mean, going back to just the overall market, I mean, if we stay above that 585 level, do not be surprised if we hit 590. And if we break 590, don't be surprised if we go to 595. I mean, it can easily happen. And if we break below 585, don't be surprised if we go to 580, because that is the extension of the retrace of this move. So the goal of all of this is, right, so to add some color to what you see in the price once the week starts, right, Monday through Friday, add some color to it so you guys understand where to apply risk if you're going to day trade, versus just blindly taking positions, right? So that's all I have for you guys. Other than that, I hope you guys have a fantastic week. If you are going to day trade, be safe, right? Don't take unneeded risk on earnings if you don't have to. If you are going to play earnings, just know the risk that you're putting on, with it being 50-50. We're almost to the tail end of a lot of the bigger earnings. And then we'll start to fall into like some of the smaller stuff. So NVIDIA is kind of the last big one that I can think of. So other than that, it's just kind of whatever's.
Yeah. But I mean, pretty much covered everything that needed to be covered today. It was a bit of a longer session. We hope that everybody enjoyed it. And we'll see you in the morning for the pre-market.
Yup. Other than that, you guys have a fantastic night. And I will talk to you guys tomorrow morning.
Peace. See us. Bye, guys.
Later.